Hello, I'm Simon Whistler, you're watching TopTenzNet, and in the video today we're looking at the top 10 fascinating facts about Mexico.
Number 10. It used to be the 5th biggest nation on Earth. Modern Mexico is a big place. While it might pale beside Canada and the USA, it dwarfs the nations of Europe and is bigger than all but one of Africa's countries. Ranked, it would be the 13th biggest nation on Earth, but that's just modern Mexico. The Mexico of the 19th century used to be much bigger. Go back to 1821 and you'd find yourself standing in one of the biggest countries in the world. The map we're showing here is independent Mexico at its fullest extent. As you probably remember from history class, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Nevada, and California were all once part of the US's southern neighbor. But Mexican territory extended further south too. Modern Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Belize, Costa Rica, and Nicaragua were all once part of Mexico. Taken all together, the Mexico that existed at independence was larger than the entire European Union. If it existed today, it would be the 5th largest nation on Earth. This super Mexico didn't last long though. Before the 1820s were out, it had lost most of the nations that now make up Central America. 25 years after that, the Mexican-American War eliminated its territory in the modern US. Number 9. It has the oldest university in North America. Quick, what's the oldest university in North America? Well, many of you probably just said Harvard. Well, sure, Harvard is quite old. It was founded in 1636, but even that institution is a baby compared to its Mexican equivalent. The National Autonomous University of Mexico, based in Mexico City, was opened in 1553. To demonstrate just how mind-blowingly old that is, consider this. The university was opened when Mexico was ruled by the Holy Roman Emperor. It was given its charter by Charles V, who headed both the Holy Roman Empire and the Spanish Empire. Dynasty was a complicated thing back then. At the time, Shakespeare was still over a decade away from being born, and Isaac Newton wouldn't be born for another century. Right now, you are closer in time to George Washington's last breath than the university was at its founding. Not that it was called the same thing back then, it was the Royal and Pontifical University of New Spain. Unlike Harvard, it also hasn't been in continuous operation. The dictatorship closed it down in 1867 and it wasn't reopened until the Revolution. Number 8. There are over 60 official languages. Ask most people to name the official language of Mexico and they'd say Spanish, and they would be right to a degree. See, while Spanish is the most widely spoken official language in Mexico, it's not the only one. Ever since the government enacted the Law of Linguistic Rights, over 60 indigenous tongues have been recognized as co-official languages. The largest of these is Nahuatl. About 1.3 million people speak this language, which is roughly equivalent to the entire population of New Hampshire. This is the language of the Aztec Empire, the language that once dominated the whole of Mexico. But it's far from being the only one. Overall, nearly 7 million Mexicans speak a language other than Spanish, although most are bilingual. Interestingly, not all co-official languages are so widely spoken. While the next 30 most popular are all spoken by somewhere between 10 to 40,000 people, some are spoken by less than 30. Number 7. They had the shortest presidency in world history. William Henry Harrison is famous in the US for his horrendously short presidency. The 9th president contracted pneumonia on Inauguration Day and died a single month later. But even WHH's reign lasted longer than that of Mexico's 34th president. By one count, it lasted nearly 3,000 times longer. Pedro José Domingo de la Calzada Manuel María Lascurain Paredes was president of Mexico for anywhere from an hour to just 15 minutes. So basically, he was president just long enough for someone to get through his name. The reason for this was the crazy politics of Revolution-era Mexico. General Victoriano Huerta had just overthrown President Madero in a coup. Under Mexico's constitution, power of a deposed president automatically passed to either his vice president, attorney general, foreign minister, or interior minister. At the time, Lascurain was foreign minister. To make his coup look less like a coup, Huerta convinced the government to appoint Lascurain president. The two men then cut a deal, and the moment he was sworn in, Lascurain appointed Huerta his interior minister and then resigned. Power automatically and legally passed on to Huerta. To date, no other world leader has ruled for such a short time. The closest is Diosdado Cabello, who ruled Venezuela for around 6 hours in 2002. His reign was still over 20 times longer than Lascurain's. Number 6. In some states, there are 3 genders. Mexico's relationship with LGBT rights is complicated, and that's saying the least. While drug gangs have been known to shoot up gay bars in some states, places like Mexico City have legalized same-sex marriage. And then there's Oaxaca. The southern state has an approach to trans people that is possibly unique in North America. Among the indigenous people, they are legally recognized as a third gender. Known as muxes, the third gender are people born as men who choose to live instead as women. They are treated as a fact of life in the same way that men and women are. They own businesses, are admired for their cookery skills, and even have a yearly ball. For some viewers of this video, this might seem like PC gone mad, but the muxes are far from a modern invention, having been around as long as the indigenous people themselves. Pre-Columbian societies in Mexico tended to have a third gender of men who lived as women. While most traditions died off with the coming of the Spanish, some of them thrived. In short, the muxes have been around since long before anyone could say what the acronym LGBT stood for. Number 5. It's home to the world's smallest volcano. So apparently Mexico has an aptitude for leading the world in the unlikely smallest thing stake. After the record-beating barely a president of Lascarain, the country has since thrown up yet another tiny marvel. Welcome to Huexcomate, the smallest volcano in recorded history. Now pay attention, kids, because just looking at images of Huexcomate is about as exciting as watching your toenails grow. It's the facts behind it that make it fascinating. Huexcomate formed way back in 1664 as an offshoot of a bigger volcano. Somehow it began to grow, and then it just stopped. Like a kid who doesn't get any bigger after their first birthday, Huexcomate topped out at a mere 43 feet. That's pretty tiny. You could stack 7 averagely tall dudes on top of one another's shoulders and the top guy would be able to peer into the crater. So small is the long-dormant volcano that no one thought twice about building around it. If you want to visit Huexcomate, you have to drive out to a suburb of Puebla, work your way around the Volkswagen factory, and locate it among people's yards. Number 4. Net Mexican migration to the US is actually negative. Mexican immigration has become a political flashpoint in the US. While we don't want to get into the politics of it here, it's worth noting that many things are not quite as explosive as they seem. While plenty of Mexicans are still traveling to the US looking for a better life, plenty more come to the US, look around, and then decide to go back to Mexico. We know this because according to Pew Research, net Mexican immigration to the US over the last decade has actually fallen to negative levels. This means there are actually more Mexicans permanently leaving the US than there are arriving. Prior to the recession, it was the other way. The period 95 to 2000 saw a net migration of 2.27 million Mexicans to the US. The period 2009 to 2014, on the other hand, saw a net migration of minus 140,000. There are several factors for this. Better border policing, the Great Recession, and increasing job opportunities in Mexico have all played a part, as has the desire to reunite with family members still in Mexico. Number 3. Mexico once went to war with France over pastries. In the annals of warfare, there can't be many dumber reasons for attacking another state than the fate of a pastry shop. Yet, that's exactly what transpired between France and Mexico in 1838. After a rioting mob ransacked a Mexico City bakery owned by a Frenchman named Remontel, he sued the nation of Mexico for compensation. When Mexico laughed him out, he returned to France and demanded an audience with King Louis Philippe. Amazingly, he got it. Even more amazingly, Louis Philippe agreed to help him. Paris wrote to Mexico and demanded payment of 600,000 pesos, about 600 times the value of Remontel's shop. To be fair, some of it was for unpaid Mexican debts incurred a decade earlier. When Mexico balked, the French Navy invaded. They bombarded San Juan de Ulúa, captured Veracruz, and blockaded the entire country. It was only thanks to a British brokered agreement that the war ended in early 1839. Remontel got his money. All in all, the pastry war dragged on for 4 months, likely killed over 100 people and injured 200 more. Number 2. They briefly had the most deluded emperor in history. Ferdinand Maximilian Joseph had the distinct honor of being Mexico's first and only emperor. A member of Europe's royal Habsburg line, the guys who ruled the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Maximilian was just drifting along when, in 1863, he received a letter telling him the people of Mexico had voted to make him their king. Rather than treat it as you would a letter from a Nigerian prince, Maximilian hightailed it to Mexico and declared himself emperor. That was a bad move. The letter had been issued by Napoleon III of France, who was conspiring with conservative Mexicans to place a loyal French puppet on the throne. Unknown to Maximilian, they'd chosen him as their useful idiot. When Maximilian crowned himself emperor, it triggered a civil war in Mexico that lasted 3 years. Apparently, Maximilian didn't realize this and thought he was a beloved paternal figure who'd finally found his true calling. When the US intervened to push France's pro-Maximilian troops out, the emperor even refused to leave, saying the Mexican peasants needed him. Those same peasants executed him in 1867. The deluded reign of Mexico's only emperor was over. Number 1. Their capital city is sinking. At 2,240 meters above sea level, Mexico City is one of the highest capital cities on Earth. Only 7 other capitals out of nearly 200 sit at a higher altitude. Pretty neat, hey? Well, wait till you get a load of this next part. If things keep going the way they are, Mexico City may not hold its coveted 8th position much longer. This is for the simple reason that the capital is sinking at an incredible rate. Yes, sinking. Every year, this vast megacity, home to over 21 million people, loses roughly 1 meter, that's 3 feet in altitude. In the last 60 years, the entire city has dropped 10 meters closer to sea level. That might not sound like much, so let's put it this way. The 7th highest capital city in the world is Sana'a in Yemen. It stands at 2,250 meters above sea level, 10 meters higher than Mexico City. Yet over the course of 6 decades, the entire Mexican capital sank so low that it passed Sana'a, dropping from the 7th to 8th place in the ranking of capital cities by altitude. The reason for this is simple. Mexico City's residents draw their water from beneath the capital, draining the water table and causing it to subside. As the city's population keeps growing, it will sink faster and faster, until eventually dropping out of the top 10 highest capitals altogether. While that's still a way off yet, Nairobi, the current number 10, is nearly 450 meters lower than Mexico City, the simple fact that it could happen is pretty mind-blowing.
So I really hope you found that video about Mexico interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Also, if you enjoyed this video that we made, check out some of our other videos that are over there on the right. Just click on those to go and watch them, and thank you for watching.